Finish related video. Today we're doing our annual top 5 releases of the year. So far, we are halfway through 2024, which is crazy. So we thought we'd take a look at our 5 favorite releases of the year.
Yeah, it's always good to touch base at this point, isn't it? And see how things are going, how we're feeling about this year from Big Finish.
I mean, how are we finding 2024?
I would say pretty positive.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think there's certainly been some changes in terms of releases and also in terms of the length of storytelling. We're getting more long-form stuff, which is always positive to see. But yeah, also more individual releases as well. Things that certainly were planned as box sets. We've even got quotes in news articles saying this box set, when it's not a box set, it's 3 or 4 individual releases.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it is working out. It's a nice change of release strategy.
It is.
It's leaving me feeling fairly positive about
I feel
Big Finish
like
at the moment.
I'm in a better place with Big Finish than I was this time last year with Big Finish. I think there's been more consistency this year.
Yeah.
With the stories, which is great.
What is your number 5 then, Ben?
My number 5.
I mean, I'm eager to find this out actually because we don't know each other's top 5 at the moment. We've got a pretty good idea because we talk about Big Finish a lot, so we know what each other likes and dislikes, but we don't know these exact releases yet until it happens here now. So yeah, sorry, interrupted you there, but
yes, so
thought it was useful to let everyone know.
Yeah, it's a nice little surprise, so you get our reaction. So my number 5 is a release from March, which is Storm of the Sea Devils.
You know what?
Yeah,
this is my number 5 as well.
Oh, there we go. We can talk about this together then.
Yeah, it's a rather neat little release, isn't it?
It's on here mainly for the 4-parter, not for the 2-parter. You're here. I think
that's why it's not any higher.
Yes,
you've got a box set with a big 4-parter and a little 2-parter there as well, and the 2-parter doesn't really do much for this set. But I think, the 4-part Storm of the Sea Devils by David K. Barnes, it's what you pick out for. It's the title, it's what's on the cover, it's 4th Doctor and Sea Devils, you've got Harry returning, you've got the introduction proper of Naomi, even though we've heard her before this, thanks to, timey-wiminess of sorts. But yeah, it's just some fun in the swamps with the Sea Devils.
It's wonderfully authentic to the 70s. You've got this wonderful villain who is very much like Harrison Chase with his sort of crocodiles.
Seas of Doom, sorry.
Seas of Doom, yeah. It's just brilliant. And I think having the Sea Devils in a very different setting gives them sort of fresh new energy to
They're freshwater rather than saltwater Sea Devils.
Yes. So it's really quite cool to have that, and the imagery you get of them, you can imagine it being done, and yeah, it's just wonderfully evocative, and I think that's a thing that sort of stays with you really. And I think it's one of those ones where when we were talking about it, I loved it even more, and I'm reminded why it is a brilliant release.
Yeah, it's one that picks up as it goes along as well.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, because I do remember being a little bit iffy on it at first while listening, like after part 1, because usually, you have the opposite effect. Part 1 will grab you. It's what people often call the Hartnell effect. You go downhill later on. But this one, it had the opposite for me, which was, I mean, it's a nice experience because you'd rather have it leave a good taste in your mouth than start off strong and then leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
So that is both our number 5.
That's nice.
I wonder how things will go with number 4. Actually, I know for a fact that my number 4 isn't going to be your number 4.
Okay.
Because you've not listened to it. It is Torted Tube Strike.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, which is the first in the Yantology, which was a trilogy of Tortured audios written by Gareth David Lloyd. And it also features Timothy Bentic as Tommy. And these two just make for a wonderful duo as they stomp through the underground fighting weevils, really. It's a pretty straightforward setup. It's a very slasher horror story, set in the London Underground, and it just does everything very well. Like, it doesn't reinvent the wheel by any means, but it turns it particularly strongly, I feel. It just hits all the right beats. It's got some good comedy, some good horror. I just had a really good time with this one. That's just all I have
one
to
on my
say about
radar
it,
to
really.
pick up. It's one on my radar, definitely.
I've been at you to get this one because I do think it is just a lot of fun. It does everything it needs to do very well. It's my number 4. How about yours?
My number 4 is, I fool them all. Fugitive of the Daleks. The first Big Finish release of the year, full cast, box set. Stephen Noonan and Maureen O'Brien take charge in a wonderful love letter to the chase, full of so many twists and turns and surprises. It goes all out authentic, with this sort of weird comedy moment, which, very in keeping with the era. And yeah, the cliffhangers are brilliant. And arguably, it has some great moments with Stephen Noonan and Maureen O'Brien, with a lot of heart between those sort of characters. Reconnecting.
Particularly in part 4.
Yes.
Some wonderful stuff there. But yeah, the cliffhangers, particularly as they go on, get stronger and stronger, I think.
Yeah, and just sort of, the location hopping, very much like the era. So it is great. And, the ending, it's one for fans. It's one where if you know the Hartnell era, you'll get a kick out of. It's a wonderful love letter to the Hartnell Dalek stories.
Now, what about your number 3, though? What beat this and Storm of the Sea Devils?
It is I, Morbius. Dark Gallifrey. The first trilogy of Dark Gallifrey, all by Tim Foley, who we love and adore. And I think for me, just part 1 is incredible storytelling, the world building of the ship Prometheus and the Captain Argenta, and just learning about early Time Lord society after the war with Morbius, and how it all comes full circle with, and so it ends and so it begins. Having Tom Baker there is great, and sort of the references to sort of classic Doctor Who, and sort of the hints of what we're going to get with Dark Gallifrey and where we could go with it. I love it. Sort of transcends the Doctor Who Big Finish, because it's a Doctor Who Big Finish, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're listening to a Big Finish classic or original, like a HG, part of like a H.G. Wells sort of range, or Dracula. It has this nice sort of classic literature feel to it, and I think that makes you feel quite sophisticated listening to it, because you're technically listening to Doctor Who, but it's got this nice sort of classic novel feel to it.
Yeah, split up into chapters as well to like match that vibe.
And I think it works wonderfully.
I mean, technically 3 releases, but
it's one story.
You can't really just put a single part of this on here, or have 3 parts take up more than half the list. If you're buying Morbius, you're either buying the whole thing or none of it at all. I think it's fair to say.
And I think the expansion for Morbius as a character, that we've only seen really the creature side, and to see that he is a character of ego, and him sort of manipulate that and use that to his will, is quite fascinating. And I'm intrigued to see Morbius the Mighty, which is sort of, I guess, a sequel to this.
Yeah, going into the Time War again by Tim Foley.
What is your number 3 then?
Mine is Born to Die, the third story in the Sontarans versus Rutans series, with the 6th Doctor and Charlie Pollard. I mean, funnily enough, looking at my top 5 at the moment, all 3 of my ones are from March. So March was evidently a good month for me. We'll see if that continues with the next 2. But yeah, as for this one, it's action-packed and it's a lot of fun. Okay. Again, I'm going off vibes at the moment. I'm just going
I
off
think that's
which
it,
ones
isn't
did
it?
I sit and have the most fun listening to. I mean, the whole of Sontarans vs. Rutons is brilliant. I think honorable mention to the ones that I've not included on this list because I think it's such a strong series, and arguably the whole is better than some of its parts. But I think unlike Morbius, this is one where you can get away with putting them individually because you can buy them individually. They each have their own beginning, middle, and end, but they come together as part of this jigsaw puzzle, I suppose. That
Maybe
all
not
makes
name
sense
only.
in
I
the
think you
end.
can definitely get away with the first three.
Yeah, that's where it all comes together. But yeah, it's just very good Sontaran action. Sixth Doctor facing off against them. Charlie has some good stuff to do in there as well. Very much more the emotional side of the story. She's like the beating heart of it. While the Sixth Doctor does some interesting investigations with a Sontaran at his side while under the threat of execution. So, all fun and games, all pretty much what you expect from a Doctor Who story and more. I had a lot of fun. It is my third place.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
My second place is yet another Sontarans versus Rutons, funnily enough. It is The Children of the Future. This is the third Doctor episode by Tim Foley. For this, it was a toss-up between this and Born to Die for the second and third spot. Kept going back and forth, but I think, it's the third Doctor era. It gives it a bit of an edge. It's something rather different. For Sontarans versus Rutons, this is the Sontaran Light story. As you could tell from the cover, it focuses a bit more on the Rutons instead. And yeah, it's just this wonderful little investigation with Sarah Jane and the Brigadier in their civvies, going after the Doctor to work out why he's been acting so strangely recently. And I think I really enjoyed how different this was from the usual Third Doctor adventure style. It's a 1 hour story and it does feel a bit more intimate. It feels perhaps something more like from the 90s in a way, like a novel that slots in between existing TV stories. I mean, that's what Big Finish is as well. Audios that slot in between, but it gives that different vibe, if that makes sense. Rather than where Big Finish have very much been trying to recreate the era authentically, doing so wonderfully recently. This is something a little bit different from that, and I really enjoyed it for that. It doesn't contrast strongly with the era either. It's just not a slave to it, I suppose. But that feels disingenuous to say about the others, because they're not slaves to it either.
Yeah, for me, it feels like a bit of a breakaway from what we've got previously with the Third Doctor, Big Finish stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a testament to the strengths of the actors' performances as well. All recasts, but you don't really blink when listening to them. It just feels right. They feel like the characters now. And yeah, they're just going off doing things that you wouldn't normally see in a TV story. It's almost like the after hours of them. This is them not at work.
Yeah.
And it's finding out quite what's going on there. What does the Doctor get up to when he's off duty, so to speak? I mean, other than flying around the TARDIS, going to Metebelis Free and stealing crystals.
That's it. Or
So, Children of the Future. That's my second place. My runner-up. What about yours?
Continuing the same trend, I've gone for a Sontarans versus Rutons story, and where it all started back in January, the Battles of Giants Causeway. Roman Sontarans. If that doesn't sell it, I don't know what will. And a lot of fun with a Sontaran in a bath. Which, it's just, the more you think about it, it's just a nice little fun, light story. Gets sort of hints of where the arc's going to go. It's a nice standalone story, like you say. It sets up a few mysteries. If you want to continue, carry on. But I think one of the big things for me, being an early Big Finish fan, having Cariz back and sort of capturing that sort of feel of like an early Big Finish, it really sort of took me back to that. And I think you don't really need to have a history with Cariz. And I think it was just a joy having this TARDIS trio back in action, really. And I think it utilized Chris better than what he probably was utilized when he was at Big Finish originally, with him sort of siding with the Rutans, because he is a shapeshifter too of sorts. So I thought that was quite fascinating
aspect to his character, isn't it?
Yes.
I think that describes a lot of Sontarans versus Rutans, actually, a way. It feels like a throwback / tribute to early Big Finish.
Yeah.
And I get that is sort of what I was getting at with Children of the Future, actually. That's the better comparison of it. It's what a Third Doctor Big Finish would have been like if it was done back before the attempts of recreating an era.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So like, you know, Big Finish's early days, where Doctors often got very different styles of stories from what they usually would have on TV. But anyway, what is your number one spot then? What beat out all the others?
Well, I think it could only be one release, and it's links in with the name of the channel. It's an 11th Doctor release. It is Victory of the Doctor, the final box set in the 11th Doctor and Valerie's series. And if anything, this is more of a recommendation to buy the whole series if you haven't, because
it's a brilliant run of episodes.
It's arguably the best run of Big Finish have ever done.
Their best arc.
It's their best arc, and it all comes down to this. And this was an exciting release because it's Paradigm Daleks. I'm a big supporter for justice for Paradigm, and this is very much taking sort of the Paradigm Daleks and making them unstoppable. For anything the Doctor and gang try and throw at them, they can do more damage and just keep on sweeping through the universe. And just it's Dalek mania, but with
Daleks Victorious, the second episode of the box set, is very much all out Dalek action, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is an onslaught of them that doesn't let up.
And just putting this friction between Valerie and the 11th Doctor, who have had quite a rocky journey, and for them just to be at odds with each other, trying to keep the universe together while everything's burning around them, and just trying to keep that friendship going. It's wonderful. I think Jacob Dudman, what a performance he puts in within this, because you genuinely forget, that's Jacob Dudman. You just think that's Matt Smith, and I think it is just a real sort of lost.
He's far above and beyond just being an impression. It is a full-blown performance.
There is so much
the
range.
Doctor.
He is, and I think for me, it's going to take a massive release has got to beat this, but I can see this still being number one in December easily.
We'll see what happens when you release your top 10 next year.
Yeah.
I mean, one other thing I love about this 11th Doctor Chronicles series is how it takes, little moments from the 11th Doctor's TV run. Some things that I wasn't particularly a fan of at the time, things that didn't go anywhere, like, the Daleks forgetting who the Doctor was. It looks at that and goes, okay, what interesting stories can be told with this? And then it runs wild with them. Like, it looks at that and thinks, okay, what's the consequences of this? Well, if the Daleks don't know who the Doctor is, and the Doctor is the only thing Daleks fear, then what's stopping the Daleks? What's holding the Daleks back, if not their fear of the Doctor? Well, nothing. So, yeah, I think that's why things get very crazy in this box set. But yeah, for me, there was something better. For me, my top release.
I think I know what this is.
Yeah. Well, the year so far, sorry. We're only halfway through. It is the Dream Team. I love a bit of Fifth Doctor. And this box set, it's another 4-parter and a 2-parter with a bit of a take it or leave it 2-parter in Dream Team, where the Fifth Doctor, Adric, Nyssa and Tegan face off against the Dream Crabs, the Cantrafari from the new series Capaldi era. But it's also got the Merfolk Murders in, which is this 4-parter by Tim Foley. And honestly, anything could have been in this box set with that story. Like, it could have been the absolute worst Big Finish story ever to be put to audio. And yet, throw the Merfolk Murders next to it, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have still been top because Merfolk Murders is right up my street. This murder mystery set during the Second World War up in Scotland. You got this murder of a University Society member. And yeah, it's just a fascinating deconstruction of those murder mystery trends. It's this wonderful look at how the Fifth Doctor is more human than his previous incarnation. How, he feels a bit more. It's about the tragedy that comes with murder mystery, how there is always a human aspect, that loss of life. But along with that, it's a puzzle. It is something to be solved. It's fascinating. It asks the question of why are we so into murder mysteries, but it doesn't get quite as so hung up on it as for it to be too somber a story. It does have its fun moments as well, and yeah, it has, of course, the scene where all the characters are sat down as the Doctor recounts how the murderer did it, because that's half the fun of these murder mysteries. It's not just the why and the who, it's the how.
It's really clever.
It's a really clever story, and the way it pulls it off on audio as well is particularly clever, because that's an extra challenge thrown Tim Foley's way, and he rises to it wonderfully. Such a brilliant writer, such a strong story. The Dream Team, because the two-parter is called Dream Team, but the box set is called The Dream Team. So yeah, Dream Team, nice little bonus to have there as well. I had fun with it, but I was here for the Merfolk Murders. I stayed for the Merfolk Murders. That's why it is number one for me. But we'll see what is to come in the future, because there certainly are some strong contenders for the rest of the year.
Yeah, July especially.
Come along and knock those off. Yeah, I mean, I think Big Finish is looking strong for the second half of the year.
It's looking really promising, isn't it? Really good.
I can't wait to dive into some of those releases. So we'll come back to you with our tier list of the whole year. Sometime early 2025, I imagine. We'll look through every single release and give our quick thoughts and see where it ranks against the others. But for now, this is just a little touch base. Yeah, and let you know where we're
our
at.
Feeling, what's been tingling our molecules. So yeah, let us know your top five. It'd be interesting to see how much sort of crossover there is with both of our lists. See what other people have been enjoying for their ears, really. So yeah, please.
Like, is there any we haven't mentioned that you really love and you think is worthy of the top spot? Do let us know. Maybe ones we haven't got around to listening to yet, or haven't even picked up.
Yes, that's another thing. Yeah. I mean, Star Cops could be a number one release. We just don't know.
Do share your thoughts down below. And until next time, we'll see you next time.
Until then, see you next time. Bye-bye.
We'll see you then.